think about. Death is swept under the carpet in our culture. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive utter desperation. They won't take the nose, the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody in church forever. try to keep you alive, utter desperation. They won't take the nose, the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody wants to be in church forever. think about. Death is swept under the carpet in our country. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive from utter desperation. They won't take the mockery. Well, of course, we've made death howl with all kinds of ghouls. We've invented dreadful afterlives. I mean, the Christian version of heaven is as abominable as the Christian version of hell. Nobody in church forever.
they're napping, just like Clint was last night. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we have a jam-packed room here with all the latest and craziest news happening right now that we are going to be breaking down to you. As, of course, there's so many different things to talk about. The TikTok ban that's happening right now, that's really about total internet control. More weapons are being sent to Ukraine. The United Kingdom just made a major move against the hundreds of genders out there, as they're also going to be extraditing Andrew Tate, as we have other breaking news coming from Haiti. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast for the next 2 hours. So make sure to share this video with your friends and family members, wherever you guys are watching it, as of course it is critically important for you guys to take part in the larger sharing of this conversation, since of course it won't be shared by the YouTube algorithm that really doesn't like us at all and really doesn't do us any favors. What does us favors is you guys saying, hey, you know, these guys are having some interesting conversations. Check it out. And when you send that to your friend, family member, random person at the grocery store, it matters a lot. And it's why we are still here as an independent media organization. Another way that you guys get to participate in the conversation is by going to, of course, lukeunfiltered.com, signing up for less than $8 a month, and then getting the ability to call into the show. As of course, we are going to be taking callers 7:30 p.m. Eastern here with you wonderful members of lukeunfiltered.com, as the conversation, of course, continues with your guys' participation in it directly. Join that conversation and not distract me from doing the introduction of this video, all by simply signing up to lukeunfiltered.com, which really does mean a lot to us, and your support is greatly appreciated during these crazy, difficult times for everyone. As of course, we also will be reading Rumble Rants, Super Chats, and we prefer you guys check out mysuperchat.com, our own website, where there's only a 3% service charge. YouTube takes 30%. If you want to still use YouTube, that's okay. That's totally fine. But we prefer you guys check out mysuperchat.com, as that's usually the best preferable way to, of course, be engaged in the conversation, but also, more importantly, also have your text show up on the screen, which you could do right now on mysuperchat.com. Joining us for this conversation are a bunch of rabble-rousers, a bunch of disgruntled individuals, a bunch of people who haven't been taking a lot of showers, and then also Josie, the red-headed libertarian, a really awesome human being that I really, really appreciate. There's a lot of women in this movement. A lot of them are catty. A lot of them don't get along with each other. I genuinely have to say, I think you're the nicest, most sincerest woman in this movement, Josie. So shouts out to you. For the people who might not know you, how would you introduce yourself, and who are you?
Well, thank you, Luke. That means so much to me. I'm Josie. I'm the redheaded libertarian. I do outside media work at timcast.com, and I host a show called Spaces with Josie that airs on X and on timcast.com for members only.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming here. The conversation is definitely going to be great. As, of course, this is not your first time on the show here, but it's always a pleasure and honor having you here. Now, the other two guys... I can't really say that here. We got Toby Turner here. Toby?
Yeah.
No, it's the wrong mic, Toby. Toby, that's the wrong.
You can't just do it straight in the cable?
No, you can't do it in the. You have to put the cable. You have to put the cable somewhere else, Toby, to make it
Got a
work.
hand house, so you're running.
Yes.
I'm Toby. How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, Ian Crossland also in the house here as well. Ian,
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for coming here. Again, he's living with us forever now. He says no longer coming back to the Beanie Cast. I appreciate him very much. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks for asking.
Stole my room, this guy.
Yeah.
He did.
But I was only going to be here for 6 years, I think.
Literally.
I preempted. And I sweat in that bed. You don't want it. Not until it's clean.
Well, we washed the sheets. You guys got to get better mic control here. You guys, can
slide it.
You guys can move it. Yeah, slide it back and forth. We set up a little sliding mechanism for you guys. Go ahead.
If I have anything to say that I think is better than what you're saying, I'll do that.
You can just cut me off by grabbing the mic and pulling it towards you.
I'm Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown. I want to give a quick shout out to Jason, who sent us an incredible lineup of additional brand new equipment. So we will not have to be sharing mics very soon. In fact, we just received a, what's the name of that thing?
A Roadcaster Pro.
We just received a second Roadcaster. Thank you so much, Jason. We're going to be sending you a little gift of our own. So appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I don't know if this guy wants promotion, but he really saved us. He really helps
Yeah.
us out a lot. We're working with like the most bootleg, rickety studio. I don't know, Toby. I don't know if you've been in more of a ghetto place than the studio that we have here.
It's not. It's amazing. I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
except for the fact that the lack of the mic. But there's duct tape on a lot of things. But no, it's really nice. I think
I think he just like the bazongas above my head.
that's part of it. I haven't actually looked much outside of those.
But
It's all coming together. At Liberty Lock Pod on X, if you want to support my work, you can subscribe there. Liberty Lockdown's the show. Tower Gang's another one that you shouldn't watch. And the Best Political Show, please take out your phones right now and search for Liberty Lockdown and the Best Political Show and hit subscribe on your favorite podcatcher so that you never miss an episode. And we got Steph on the buttons as usual.
Steph, we are Change here on the buttons. You can find me on X at StephWRC.
All right, let's just get into it because there's a lot of different news that is going to be affecting everyone. And that, of course, is the major power grab that Congress and the federal government are trying to get away with now, all under the guise of protecting you from those really naughty, really bad TikTokers. Now, we could talk about TikTok and its larger effects on society, but the conversation definitely gets interesting with what Thomas Macy is calling a, quote, Trojan horse. He says the TikTok ban will empower the president of the United States to ban whatever websites he wants, not just applications, all, of course, specifically codifying into law that any company, American or offshore, or even internet hosting service or Apple App Store could be taken down at the whim of the president of the United States. Elon Musk responded to this Thomas Macy tweet by saying, this law is not just about TikTok, it is about censorship and government control. If it were just about TikTok, it would clearly only cite foreign control as the issue, but it does not. To me, this is a massive power grab. This is a very desperate move by some very desperate politicians that are losing a lot of control, a lot of influence, mainly because people are able to talk to each other. People are able to share videos. People are able to communicate with each other on Twitter, on Rumble, on Telegram, away from the tight grips of control of the intelligence agencies that previously ruled all of the algorithms on pretty much all of the big social media platforms. Now we're seeing TikTok, which again, you could say a lot of negative things about TikTok. There's a lot of things we could criticize TikTok on, but we're seeing these very vague rules, just like we saw under the Patriot Act, just like we saw under all the legislation that Congress likes to frickin' shove down its halls that are filled with a lot of things that we never expected them to be filled with. And usually what is filled in those bills is not what is beneficial to the American public. Now, Josie, I don't know what you make of this, since it would be advantageous for Elon Musk to say, yeah, let's go take down TikTok. Let's pass this bill. Let's get rid of TikTok so we could be, one of the bigger kind of social media platforms, because that's exactly what's going to happen here. But I think he kind of realizes that if this law passes, they're going to say, hey, this South African guy, his social media platform is not welcome here as well.
Yes, absolutely. That seems to be the direction that they want to take this in, because they've already tried in other ways to control X and to regulate it, and they've lost their grasp. We know through the Twitter files that they were in bed with the government and they were able to take things down at the whim, like just with a Slack message saying, handle this. And they were like, oh, I got this handled, So they're saying they're trying to protect us, protect our privacy. And that's kind of the guys they're going on after. But you know what's a bigger risk to our privacy? The NSA, the DHS, the IRS, CBDCs, all the alphabets. All the alphabets are a much bigger risk to our privacy. They don't really care about our privacy. They care about controlling under the guise of protecting our privacy.
And we saw very similar statements made by Donald Trump, which we're going to be getting into in a little bit here. But this bill doesn't surprise me because I saw it coming for a very long time, especially since Elon Musk, especially since Rumble, especially since Telegram, especially since TikTok does allow some independent voices to speak, and the algorithms aren't fully controlled by the intel agencies that, of course, call the shots with Facebook, call the shots with Alphabet, call the shots with this platform that we're on right now, and they basically say, "Man, we don't like this thought and expression. You're just going to silence these people. You're going to destroy their careers. You're going to make sure that their ideas don't get out there to the general public." And all the big tech social media companies that have ties and were even started by intel agencies were like, "Yeah, no problem. You got it, boss. Just tell me what to do." And that's exactly what they were doing for many, many years. But now with Twitter, with Rumble, with Telegram, the Overton window is being pushed. TikTok, you could debate because there's a lot of negative things that are being pushed on the general public. I would argue that TikTok is a weapon of mass destruction, of psychological warfare, of fifth generational warfare used against the general public. But Congress doesn't want to deal with TikTok. They want a power grab for themselves that they are going to be using and abusing for their own personal benefit. That's how I see it. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I had something to say just about the whole TikTok thing. I think TikTok is pretty good. It's at Tobuscus, if you want to follow me.
Is that your TikTok? Well, at Tobuscus?
Is that your TikTok,
Is
this
that-
guy says?
Is there an age cutoff
I mean-
limit?
Yeah, it's 18 plus.
Got it.
So personally,
No,
I
it's
think,
only under. No, I mean, that's probably what it is.
I
don't
think
know.
as a parent, you should be able to parent your children and say, "I wouldn't like you using this website." And if you've, like kids can be rebellious, but if you've raised, pretty decent children, they should respect you to an extent and listen to you. And then there comes to be a point of checking their phone and it's just active parenting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, the libertarian argument would be, hey, don't just hand your child a phone or connection to the internet with anything and everything available at their fingertips. Let's not just do that blindly, as of course the algorithms are there to, I think, destroy children. And they do that, especially with a lot of adult
Yes.
content. And I think that also is a part of the larger psychological warfare. But if we're going to be criticizing TikTok for doing that and showing, the bazungas and the buttocks, Instagram does it as well. Instagram forces it down your feed, whether you like it or not. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't mind it. But when a child gets induced into such adult content in such an early age, it rewires their brain and it prevents them from having cohesive, loving relationships in the future.
yes, I'd read an article maybe a year or two ago about how the Chinese government, whoever controls TikTok, the algorithm puts stuff to dumb down the American kids into their TikTok algorithms.
And the Chinese one does the
kids,
opposite.
The opposite, yes. It has ways to advance them in math and ways to kind of like different languages and ways to make them more smart. So that's definitely what they're doing. They're
I still don't buy that algorithm is necessarily top down controlled, because if you just look at like culturally, what do the kids want to see? Like they want to see twerking and nonsense in America, whereas in China, I think that they're being raised differently. So I think that the algorithm modifies itself basically using like a AI type of framework so that it feeds you whatever you watch a lot of. And I think that because the Chinese culture is healthier, it feeds them healthier things. That I've never seen any documentation or proof that they have actually modified the code of the algorithm for the American consumer. I know that's the conservative argument on it, the Republican talking point. I don't know that it's true though.
You've never seen the code because it's not available.
Right. I don't know.
You tell him, Ian, free the code.
Dude, I was reading this bill. I was telling you guys last night. You want to go to section 2G. That's where the definitions. Whenever you read these bills, go to the definitions part because they'll explain what they're trying to ban. Foreign adversaries or things that are covered at companies that are in cahoots with foreign adversaries. But then when you read what that means, section C, for instance, it's 2G 1C. It's a person that's subject to the direction or control of a foreign person. So they're really trying to ban. Like if a guy, I said this last night, I'll say it again. If Chris Pavlovsky, CEO of Rumble, if Elon Musk, CEO of X, were to have a buddy in Russia or a friend that they called on the phone one day that had a cousin in the KGB, Biden could sign a thing and be like, you have a connection with a foreign adversary. You are being directed or subject to the control of a foreign person.
And this is the justification that they used for sweeping surveillance techniques in the United States. Many, many years ago, they said, oh, if you have, if you're like 7 degrees away from a foreign national, you are a foreign national, and therefore we could spy on you domestically.
This is the same thing that they did with the Restrict Act. You guys remember this like 6 months ago? They tried to pull this almost identical crap, and they got shut down when people realized what was happening. I don't know why it's not getting smacked down again. They called it a really long name now instead of something like Restrict. strict, so people aren't as like shocked by the name.
Well, the reason we're
on
talking about
purpose.
it is because Congress is moving forward with this bill, and it looks like it will possibly pass
They introduced it
That's
like
gonna-
6 days ago. How can they? In
That's-
8 days, you want to ruin our country in 8 days? What?
Yeah, that's gonna take down Truth Social in a second. They already say that Trump is working for the Russian whatever, so that'll be the first thing that they sign off on.
Quick
after this
quick
happens.
related note. My dog's name, this is going to sound like it's fake, is 2G. And you said 2G a couple times because he looks exactly like my old dog. And his name was Griffin, so he's 2G, like Generation 2. That's all. So he's watching, and so you just...
Thank
he
you,
probably
thank you,
likes
Toby,
now.
for that great insight.
I'll have
Thank
plenty
you.
more.
Really, really
Well,
appreciate
let
that.
me add real quick because I haven't actually discussed the topic at hand. A lot of people are going to view a lot of people are going to view this attack on TikTok as kind of the canary in the coal mine. I actually 48 hours ago I was warning even before the text of the bill was out that this is almost certainly going to be utilized to go after X and Rumble and any other uncontrolled social media platform, even brand new ones. But I think that the real canary in the coal mine was Parler. And the way that they went after Parler was that they went after the App Store and they went after the host. And that's exactly what Thomas Massey pointed out today in that bombshell little clip that he put out, is that they are making it so that the actual criminal offense will be held against any host of these websites which have been deemed to be, enemy propaganda or whatever. So that's the way that they're going to do it. The exact same way they took down Parler, they called up Amazon Web Services and they said, pull it.
Yeah.
And Apple did it, Android did it, everybody did it, Parler was dead.
So what would happen is TikTok would be like, okay, we're banned, fine, we'll make an APK, they'll torrent it, you can download the APK and have it, but then the U.S. government will be like, having that APK is a felony. You can't have that kind of crap. is what
Exactly
they're
right.
gonna try.
Yep.
So
And
would
if
that
this passes,
also
which it won't.
implicate the new cloud services that Rumble just came out with?
You got it. That's a great warning too, because they are trying to make it so that it's illegal. They can essentially dictate what the hosts are allowed to host, which means that they have complete control over everything that's on the internet. This is a total panopticon surveillance mechanism, and people are still talking about TikTok as if this is even the relevant topic at hand. It's totally secondary to actually what they're attempting.
Sorry about that, but it just made me think it's really funny that banning this Chinese TikTok is gonna bring us like this totalitarian, like Chinese.
Well, that's the disguise of what they're using it as.
It's
They're
the
like,
iron law.
TikTok's really bad. It's hurting a lot of children. Therefore, we got to stop it for the children, of course. But they've been trying to do this for a long time. We have U.S. Senator Rand Paul, who actually came out and spoke about this just even a couple months ago. We made a short about this. Here it is.
Why we might not want to do this. The one would be the First Amendment to the Constitution. Speech is protected whether you like it or not. The second reason would be is that the Constitution actually prohibits bills of attainder. You're not allowed to have a specific bill against a person or a company. So this fails on two egregious points, pretty obvious points, and I think we ought to think about that. I think we should beware of those who peddle fear. I think we should beware of those who use fear to coax Americans to relinquish our liberties, to regulate and limit our First Amendment rights. Every accusation of data gathering that's been attributed to TikTok could also be attributed to domestic big tech companies. In fact, one of the bills they're looking at doing is broad enough that the president will be given the power to designate whatever country he sees fit to be an adversary and whatever company underneath that definition. There are two
And this was months and months ago, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. I know Josie's like, he's spitting because he's talking about the Constitution. And I know, Josie, that's your particularly favorite topic to talk
Yes,
about.
it is. This all just makes me think about Ken Buck is stepping down like very quickly by next week. He's one of the ones that voted against the impeachment of the border security. Mayorkas. So he's stepping down now quickly, and this again further narrows the gap, the very thin margin that the Republicans have in power over the Democrats in the House. So I feel like we're this year, and it's not even going to be usually there's an October surprise, but I feel like this year we're going to see a lot of tyranny, a lot of power grabs, and we're going to see them try to narrow that gap and get Republicans to switch over to Democrat sides. But when it comes to something like this, the Restrict Act 2.0, we see a lot of uniparty kind of common control They want to ban it for different reasons, so they come together and they create this huge evil. But what Rand Paul was saying about how it violates our First Amendment, I mean, that's true. And you have all these congressmen saying, "Oh, well, for safety, we should violate this," and all of them should be just voted out as soon as possible.
Well, just today and over the past 48 hours, actually, Kristi Noem, Ron DeSantis has done the same. There has been these anti-Semitism bills, or these anti-Semitism bills that have been getting passed, and Kristi Noem was bragging about hers yesterday. So simultaneously, we have an attack on the First Amendment when it comes to any sort of media that is favorable to China, but also you have laws that are being rolled out that make it so that you can't be critical of Israel. And it's like these are both very similar issues, even though they sound very different, because they come back to the same core. First Amendment. We have the right to have products that aren't healthy for us. We have the right to have products that might even be media manipulation, because what does it mean? It means that we're allowing the government to dictate and decide what is propaganda, what is unhealthy for us. That is not the answer. That is not the American answer. That is the CCP answer. And if we want to beat China, well, then we have a pathway.
Beat China.
If you want to solve this problem, what you do is you tell foreign adversaries, and you'd have to make it so the president doesn't have sweeping authority, but you order foreign, you could just say foreign corporations that are operating large-scale social networks, that they have to free their software code to operate in the U.S. so that we can inspect the code and see if it is actually manipulating the kids. Because all this is really about, it's not about TikTok as a platform, it's about the manipulation itself. And if you can expose the manipulation, then you can do it without having to. And what'll happen is ByteDance will say, no, then we're not going to operate in the United States, and it's a win. If we want them to shut down, we get them to do it on our terms rather than.
I don't think they're going to
I was
shut
having
down.
the same conversation 6 months ago about the Restrict Act.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are we going to be doing it again in 6 months, or is it like
Well, we're doing it
until
now.
ends?
We're doing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, if this
a
one,
little louder. Into the
Yeah,
microphone.
thanks.
if it passes, then we won't be having this conversation again in 6 months, because it'll be too late and the horse will be out of the barn, so to speak. This is why I think it's so important that we don't fall. Like, they're describing TikTok as a psyop. The psyop is that they have you focused on TikTok when this is about your First Amendment rights. That's the issue. It's property rights and it's First Amendment rights. Like, you don't have the right as the federal government to dictate what type of programming goes into an app. Like, what does that mean? I mean, if you want to make it so that there's privacy rights that are broad-based, so that every tech company does not have the permission to utilize your personal data, where you're at, all the biometric shit, if it's across the board, that's a discussion that I'm willing to have. But if it's not, if it's just going to target enemy, technology, that's absurd.
Yeah, Rumble had a very interesting response to all of this, as they just posted a response from Chris Pavlovsky, who wrote an open letter to TikTok saying, hey, if you guys have to divest, if you guys can't be Chinese owned, we'll own you, we'll buy you inside of the United States. And I think Rumble fails to understand that if this bill passes, they're going to be going after Rumble very quickly. As of course,
big
Rumble
mistake.
also has a lot of ties to Canada, and those pesky Canadians, not good people, super annoying, and don't get me started. Don't get me started on the Canucks over here. But that would be a justification, and it would probably be used because platforms like Rumble challenge the establishment. They allow people to have free speech, and it's still one of the few places where you could express yourself without any kind of fear of retaliation for your political thought and expression. When you're on Instagram, or when you're on Facebook, when you're on YouTube, the platform we're on now, I have to worry. I'm like, okay, all right, guests, don't say this, don't say that. Okay, we can't get into this topic. Okay, we're going to have to save that conversation for later. It's super annoying, but it's also super dystopian that I have to be careful with what I say in the spur of a moment during a live show, which is extremely freaking frustrating, because we have platforms that are not tolerant to ideas being expressed. And these are ideas that, again, should be worth discussing no matter what they are. If you like them or dislike them, they're just ideas. A society is as free, only as big as the ideas that it's allowed to, of course, fully be able to express.
Well, I mean, let's also consider that if we're going to view TikTok as this enemy entity, well, why are we not holding the same litmus test? Why are we not holding the same measurement stick up to Alphabet and Google, who made it so that we couldn't tell the truth over the past 3 years when lives were on the line? I mean, that's that's a pretty egregious infringement on free speech rights, and they haven't been held to account. Are we having hearings about that at all? No, we're focused on TikTok and the algorithm. It's absurd.
Yeah, they
It's
banned information 3 years ago that was true. That came out to be true. That the establishment now says, we were wrong about that. Even though we destroyed entire news organizations and individuals' livelihoods because we didn't like you talking about it at first, which is frustrating because we could have solved a lot of problems. We could have saved a lot of lives with the right information. That information denied to you from, of course, the intel agencies that were telling big tech social media to shut people up for their thoughts and expressions. Ian, you look like you want to say something.
It's interesting. It doesn't have. I was reading all the stuff you can't say. Okay, so this is stuff you can't say, but
Yes, Toby.
Don't say
for
all of
some
it.
reason,
We will taser you.
I feel like
doesn't
Toby
have-
is
doesn't have the N word on here. I don't know why. It's not on there.
we just assumed that you wouldn't say it.
I've never said it before.
Yeah, don't assume.
You guys have probably said it.
This is the people.
I've never said it, not even once.
Lucky.
Maybe in like a nightmare.
You just said it.
The people at Alphabet got to realize if this bill goes through, they're going to pick your company apart.
Yes.
Website by website,
Yes.
database by database, and they'll crush and ruin your company and take control of it. You cannot let this happen.
I just
We got to
wanna-
exercise our human rights right now.
I just want to make it very
Our
clear.
abilities.
This is not specifically for enemy nation tech platforms. This says that the president can decide which nation is an enemy and then deem any of the products that are being hosted from those nations as bannable. But they also say that they can instruct even domestic carriers of data, which is essentially what Rumble is now becoming with their cloud services. They can dictate what they're allowed to host. That is such a massive that if they have that power, then every single time that there's a controversial issue, whether it's Israel-Palestine, whether it's 2020 and that insanity, the elections, any of that, they can totally shut down any dissenting voices, and not just the dissenting voice, but the hosting service itself. That is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing in Europe to a crazy level where Rumble is banned in places like France. The whole entire freaking country does not allow Rumble because France came to Rumble and said, ban these creators. Rumble said, no, we're not going to do that. And then they literally banned it from an entire freaking country.
And Canada speaks French in some places.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, thank you. You're such a great addition here. You provide such great insight. Truly.
Am I wrong?
True, yes.
So
no,
with all the
great
stuff
job.
that they did for COVID, they did it all under the guise of your safety, and now they're coming back like, "Oops, we made mistakes." 3 years later, and that's the same thing that would happen with these websites, because they're going to be like, "Oh no," everyone's falling for it again. They're all like, "Oh, this is our safety again."
And
I don't know if you guys heard about the recent story that just happened in Europe, specifically Belgium. There was a politician there that was sharing private memes in a private chat group. One of those memes was deemed racist, allegedly, and now he has been sentenced to 1 year in prison because of sharing a meme in a private group away from the general public.
Dries van Langenhove. I think that's how you pronounce his name. That's
pretty
crazy.
good.
That's crazy.
What's the meme say?
Eva,
I bet it's a great name.
Eva Valendergerbroek was the one who broke the story. She's a commentator and lawyer. And
Eva Vlaardingbroek.
Vladimir
no, you said it wrong. It's
Vlad-
Eva
Yes, I adore her.
Valendergerbroek.
She's really spectacular.
Yes, she
Eva,
is.
apologies in advance for
Shout outs to Eva.
I'm dyslexic.
Eva Vlar. That's all we gotta say.
Yeah,
No,
that's her handle on
you
Twitter.
pronounce
At
full
Eva
names.
Vlar.
It's Eva Vladingerborek.
Nice work.
Eva
Yes, you got it.
Vlaardingbroek.
Nailed it. Perfect.
I don't know, dude. It's tough.
So
Anyways,
she's reporting. She's reporting on this situation. It's a serious situation because you're in Europe. You share a private messages. I want to know what the meme is. First of all, we don't know what the meme is.
bet it's a banger.
Put it up on the screen.
I'm asking the internet. We could on Rumble. I asked the internet. I was like, "Tell me which meme this is," and I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to go on Twitter, twitter.com/@Luke We Are Change, and be like, send me the meme that you think it is. And we're going to be going over those memes on Rumble in just a little bit. Rumble.com/We Are Change in order to fulfill Toby's hatred for humanity and give him his 2 minutes of hate.
I can't even pronounce Vladimir. That's very offensive, actually.
Well,
I'm
what
so
Tucker
sorry.
Carlson had said when he was over in Russia, that he had one of those encrypted chats that he was talking talking about potentially meeting Putin through an encrypted chat. And then somebody from like the CIA or the FBI reached out to him because they managed to get their hands on this encrypted chat that they should not have been able to get their hands on and find out what he was doing.
So this is making me think about free speech and the First Amendment, and I think there's going to be a paradigm shift in what the perception of what that means. We brought this up last night. This might take me a minute to explain, but listen. If you're told by your government you can say whatever you want, but you don't know how to speak, you don't know how to read, you don't know language, you haven't learned the language, but you're free to say whatever you want, you're not going to be able to do it because you don't have the language. And it's the same thing with the code, the software code of these machines. If you don't have that language, you're not going to be able to speak freely because you're not going to know if your words are getting seen accurately, two, if you're actually hearing what people are saying. You need access to the language. And it's going to become apparent to people in the next 20 years. I just hope to God it happens before the American civilization is denied. We have to grab it by the horns and force it down the throat of the world government. We have to integrate it into this new government.
You're talking about open source code?
Yeah, well, free software code is even better because the thing about just general open source code is you could take it and then make it private and change it and keep it proprietary. When it's free, if you take it and change it, all those things remain open.
Question for you out of my own ignorance. It seems to me that the reason there's a valid reason to not have open code in that you spend millions and millions of dollars on programmers to create this code, and then if it's open source, then some competitor can just snatch it up and start their own. Is that not a reasonable justification in your mind as to why they ought to have those protections? Like basically IP?
Not for global social networks. It's like if they developed like chemical weapons and brought them into the U.S. and then unloaded them, you'd be like, we want the ingredients of that so that we can undo the toxin. And you're like, if you're going to bring these chemicals into our country, we want to know what they are.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a very tough topic because like this is also an area of fierce debate amongst libertarians when it comes to intellectual property and IP and property rights in that regard. I don't have a great answer for it. I agree with you that I just would like our focus to be more on the fact that we have psychological operations that are being ran against us by our own government. Why are we even spending a minute of our time concerned with TikTok when literally we could just delete it? I can't stop the federal government from manipulating.
Don't do that.
I can't stop the federal government from manipulating the news and the political class and Hollywood and everything else that they do to manipulate how I perceive the world, but I can delete TikTok. So it's like I have control over this one. I have no control over what the federal government's doing to me, and we don't even talk about that.
That's another conversation, man. But what do you say, Toby?
I was going to say, if the CIA can't decrypt my stuff, it's kind of pathetic. Don't you expect them to be able to do that?
Oh, they can, brother. Trust me.
Well, hopefully, because every once in a while, I'll send them a little message anywhere I am.
They created the encryption keys.
Heartfelt message. I respect the.
What kind of message? What kind of message do you send the feds?
Yeah, you went to the grocery store. Also, you guys are in the CIA or FBI or whatever. Can you say hi to Fox Mulder if you get a chance? And then he's like, he's not real. I'm like, oh my god, they are reading my text messages. That all happened. So,
what is happening?
So Dries van Landerhove is actually also on social media. You could see him on Twitter at Devon Landernhove. He also has a Give Send Go right now that I think has raised 16,251 euros. He's trying to collect 26,000 euros for, of course, probably an appeal here and a defense against memes. Someone sent me the memes in question here. They're a little spicy. I'll just say it as that. They're a little offensive. We'll be going over those probably a little bit later, but again, they weren't. But again, someone to get a prison sentence for sharing private messages, again, absolutely freaking ridiculous. And this is what a lot of central controllers want for the people here in the United States. They could get away with it in Europe because they don't have a First Amendment. They don't have free speech. They don't have the ability to express themselves without consequences from the state barging down your door and destroying your life for daring to question things, which makes people want to question things even more. And it's absolutely freaking ridiculous that we have to deal and live in a society where the government and the state nannies you so much that they protect you from thoughts inside of your own head.
This is like when a space shuttle is leaving orbit, you've got to put so much force into that machine to get it into orbit. This is like getting American constitutionalism spread around the globe. We've got to get it into orbit before we can. But if we don't, it's going to topple and fall back into monarchy. And maybe it'll be called oligopoly, maybe it'll be called corporatism, but it's just top-down rule and control.
But Ian, you know that America was still doing great. It was the number one economy on the face of the earth for hundreds of years. Like, why do we need to spread democracy or constitutional republicanism all over the world? Why can't we just focus on our domestic policies and remedying what ails us here?
Because Joe Biden can ban, if this bill passes, he could ban you for having a phone conversation with a guy in Russia. It's like one globe now. It's not like you have to walk next door to see your.
That's the paradigm that they want us in. I'm rejecting it entirely. I'm saying I'm not interested in the globalist framework. I don't want a globalist government. I don't want there to be global policies either. I think that's the actual answer is decentralization, getting away from the globalist model. It seems as if you're trying to apply our preferred framework to the entire globe, which I think is also oppressive.
Decentralization is a form of a globalist model. It could be. And that's the model I'm looking at, is like states' rights. 50 states in the U.S., you got 7,000 states on Earth, and it could be United States of Earth, and we all have our local governments.
Ooh.
We don't need a federal government. We just need states communicating with each other. We need
Well,
localities
this was the original purpose of the United States of America. It used to be these United States of America. It was just however many sovereign states at the time with trade agreements. And what the 10th Amendment says is that the powers of the federal government are delegated to what's written down in the U.S. Constitution. And if it's not written there, then that power then goes to the people or the individuals or the states. And if there's not a clause within the articles saying that the states can't do it, then the states can also pick that up and do it if they want. Like, for instance, border protection. All right, it's delegated. Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution that's delegated to the federal government to protect the states from invasion. However, the states are not, or the federal government's not doing that. So then that leaves it to Texas and the individuals for them to be able to do it themselves because that's just not happening to them. So, I mean, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm just calling it the Restrict Act 2.0 because that's what it is. But when it comes to stuff like that, there's a limit that the federal government can do that's not written down in the Constitution. And then that falls to the states. And the states can decide, you know what, do we want to respect this in our state or don't we want to respect this in our state? And we see this. We see this with the trans and kids in particular. You know, we have 23 states that say we're not going to trans kids here. And then we have 15 states that say, well, we're going to trans kids here, you know, and that's nothing that the federal government can really come in and rule on top of states. It's the fail-safe in the Constitution to protect us.
Just have all the trans people move to whatever state, you know, supports it. And then all the people that are, you know, they love guns and shooting each other, just have them go somewhere else. Yeah. And then, you know, and then it'll be a nice, big, happy family. Unfortunately, it's probably a lot slower reproduction rate in the states that trans, you know, God bless them. But the population probably would go down.
Toby, we're going to cut off your mic. Ian, just grab that mic. Just grab that mic from him. We got some super chats here that we're going to get into. Red Viking says, welcome, beautiful and amazing people. Thank you, Red Viking, for the super chat. It means a lot. Another one from Crash Bandit saying, it sounds like Alejandro Mayorkas is or was on the highest board running the NGO, Human Trafficking, out of South America, and he is still in control of Southern Border. Josh from EP Times documentary. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but it's true. What does that mean, Clint?
Well, HIAS is, I think it's like Hebrew International something. But anyways, there's a bunch of NGOs that are being funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars. And yes, Mayorkas sat on the board of HIAS before he became, Homeland Security head or whatever his position is, border security, I don't know. But he's not doing that job either, which is perfectly in alignment with the UN 2030 and the UN migration agenda. So this is the globalist plan that Ian is referencing. I am trying not to become or fall victim to it more than we already have, as we've seen. And Luke covered this today with the immigration, the next migrant flood coming out of Haiti. I am not anxious to see that happen.
Yeah, we got another Rumble rant from Bill Dozer 74. Great guy. Follow him on Rumble. And he says, good to see the rainbow representation today. You're up to 6.4 hours of taser on the unmentionables. Clint, 10.5K more followers, y'all. And Bill Dozer is responding to the very grandiose, amazing event that will happen here on this channel when our Rumble channel reaches 100,000 subscribers. We are 10.5 thousand people away. I know people that are signing up 2 accounts. Don't do that. Just tell your friend, tell your family members to sign up. Tell them to click the notification button. Tell them to subscribe. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to Rumble to have an active user base and to have people actually there, because 100K, bam, he gets it right in the you know what. It's going to be fun. It's going to be incredible.
Just to make it very
Josie,
clear,
the redheaded libertarian, absolutely approves of this, and it was her idea. Thank you, Josie. Really appreciate you.
Just to make it very clear,
okay,
the people
puppy.
the people that are signing up with multiple accounts to try and see me tase sooner, I hate you with every fiber of my being, and I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. You're like really, really bad people.
From the bottom of my heart, I love you guys very much. I appreciate your vigor for justice. I appreciate your just ability to do the right thing. But just if you're one person, just sign up for one account and don't sign up for fake accounts. Have your real account. Have other people you know sign up, because that really does make the biggest difference here. To finish off the conversation that we were just having about TikTok, we have this New York Times article that is talking about how the House is going to be moving forward with this bill, even though Donald Trump is opposing it. As, of course, Donald Trump previously called the TikTok a national security threat. But he also is saying if TikTok is banned, Facebook, which he deems the enemy of the people, is going to be propagated here and more popular than ever. And with the use of stories on things like Instagram, he does make a very compelling argument here, as, of course, what he's really boiling the argument down to is saying, TikTok's controlled by foreign elements. All these other social media companies are controlled by domestic elements. Both of them don't have your best interest at heart. And I think that's my conclusion from here. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I would amend what he said, that TikTok is a national security threat, and say the proprietary social networks are a national security threat.
Yeah, but who wrote that bill? I mean, we know that Congress isn't writing the bills or reading the bills. We know that it's lobbyists. So which lobbyists wrote this bill and included all of that trash in it that doesn't just get rid of TikTok, you know?
Absolutely.
Is it Roberts? Is that Mike Roberts? Is that his name? Are you asking literally who wrote
Yeah.
the TikTok bill?
Yeah, who wrote
Mike
it?
Roberts. Let me check the name. It's,
All right, as Ian checks the name, Stephanie, you had something to say. You grab the mic.
Boycott the guy that wrote it.
Well, I just want to clarify. It is the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, and it was intended originally to help Jewish people that were fleeing the pogroms, which is it's a great cause. And now they're also handing out maps and phones with GPS to help people come from South America and all over the world into America. This is a UN plan.
This
I've been
bill
saying
was sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher, but I want to know who wrote the thing. 'Cause
Yeah,
this
sponsored.
This is just the guy in Congress that sponsored the corporate bill that got passed.
You can probably
through his
find out
desk.
from Thomas Massey.
Well, I'll tell you who wrote it without knowing. It's the CIA.
It's the same bill that they had months and months ago that was turned down that they're trying to pass through right now.
Looks like a nice guy.
I don't think people understand how much of our congressional activity is just a product of the security establishment, because that's the whole framing on this, right? This is a national security threat. Who do you think wrote it? Well, it's going to be the NSA, it's going to be the CIA, it's going to be the FBI, it's going to be all of the federal police force that wants to have as many tools at their disposal to spy on us as aggressively as possible and to control our minds. That's what's happening.
But even without Congress, we see the U.S. Pentagon and the military-industrial complex still figure out a way, just like they did recently when it came to sending $300 million of weapons to Ukraine. Yes, this is the latest news. Even though Congress never passed a new spending bill, even though Congress never approved more money for Ukraine, the U.S. government is sending more money to Ukraine, as now they're using savings from an army contract, even though the Pentagon needs $10 billion to replenish its weapons stockpile to send more weapons to Ukraine. As, of course, Ukraine is running out of ammunition, and the United States is bankrolling and financing everything as European countries cheer them on and say, yes, keep doing it. You want it? No, we're not going to do it. You want it? No. We're not going to give you a dime. let the United States do it, and that's exactly what the United States is doing, prolonging this conflict, leaving an entire generation of young Ukrainian men to die. To die for what is the question that a lot of people are asking themselves. But this is just highlights how Congress doesn't even matter anymore. The government's going to figure out any kind of way to send whatever they can, even though it's putting us at a very severe disadvantage security-wise, with not having enough weapons stockpile for ourselves, which is freaking crazy.
Ukraine is a failed state. It's a corpse on life support. And it's not, and they keep saying, oh, well, we have to save their democracy. And it's like they're canceling elections. They're imprisoning journalists. They're raiding churches. This is the least democratic state that there is.
They took out an American journalist. They took out an American citizen, put him in a jail, and he lost his life. And we still don't have answers about exactly what happened
That's
there.
Gonzalo Lira.
Gonzalo Lira.
Yeah. That's absolutely
He was
tragic.
talking crap about the Ukrainian government like right when the war was popping off, and
in a major way. And you knew he was going to run afoul of them. But it's tragic. I mean, this is why it's so not just hypocritical, but really reprehensible that they try and portray the Ukrainian government as something that we ought to bankrupt ourselves to defend. I mean, God bless the Ukrainian people. I have no malice towards them whatsoever. But the Ukrainian government to pretend as if that's a democracy that should be upheld is laughable.
They are conscripting grandmother dental hygienists to saw off limbs in the trenches. This is not a democracy. This is a failed state. There's like no men left. All the men have fled, so.
Well, and just
fled or lost their lives in the trenches for essentially what a lot of military campaigners are calling a meat grinder.
Yeah, and that's what they did. It was a truck or something they unloaded, and there were a bunch of Ukrainian men on it, and they found them.
We were
trying
playing
to flee.
We were playing that video yesterday for all the
So
viewers.
it's just all women in Ukraine now?
you can think about going.
No.
Was that video ever confirmed to be true? Like, I never saw any validity, any backup, any links, anything. It was just a video of a guy pulling 34 men out of a truck.
It was never confirmed to be untrue, and usually that's what'll happen. It'll be community noted within 24 hours, and it hadn't happened. So
yeah, I mean,
it wasn't a clown car, Ian. It wasn't a circus that was happening there.
Yeah, we don't know for a fact, the reason they were being pulled out of the back, but that's the issue with fog of war stuff. I mean, you see footage that comes out of Gaza, for instance, and it's like, well, this looks horrific, but if you want confirmation, it's going to come from the health ministry of the Palestinian government, and then anyone that's on the Israeli side will argue, well, that's Hamas propaganda. So I have, you can't ever really know anything in the fog of war.
Is it? I know that adults trying to flee the Ukraine are getting sent back or stopped at the border and pulled out. But
men can't leave the country.
Kids?
Women
What about
can leave the country.
What about 17-year-old boys?
yeah, they're training. There was videos of trainings, but then again,
So are
fog of war.
they're not letting them leave the country either? What about 13-year-old boys?
I'm not
15-year-old
sure
boys?
about that. We would have to ask someone in Ukraine for confirmation about that. But
Yeah.
most fighting age males, even up until I believe the age of 50 or even 60 in some cases, are not allowed to leave the country. Women are, and a lot of women have left, and they're off. Many of them partying, many of them enjoying their best life. As males are literally trained in record time and then sent to the front lines to deal with the onslaught of all the hardened Russian military servicemen that also have been conscripted and are continuing to be conscripted and told to also fight on the front lines, which it's a horrible situation for either side here, as the loss of life is tremendous. It's something that's very severe, and it's something that's only going to be prolonged as the Pentagon literally does workarounds so Congress doesn't approve this bill. They're trying to get $95 billion now. That's what's being debated in Congress right now. While you can't pay for groceries, they want to send $95 billion to Ukraine right now.
Speaking of which, Luke bought me a sub, and I just want to say thank you for buying me that sub. It was like $12.
Quick point
I regret it.
Quick point of clarification. I think it's 60-ish billion to Ukraine. It's like 20 billion to Israel. It's like 10 billion to Taiwan. But regardless, the point still stands.
How much
It's
to the
ridiculous.
border?
Zero.
Zero to the border, because why would they drone bomb their future voters?
And then what? That 90 billion, is that worth about 75 billion of like 2 year ago money? So it's not only going to dilute the value of your bread, it's going to make your bread more expensive. Next time they want to get money, they're going to need 110 billion.
Yeah, they're going to print it all off. We don't have that kind of money. So.
But the war isn't looking too good for the Ukrainians, as the Independent is also reporting how there was an incursion into the Russian territory by the Ukrainians that has left heavy casualties and losses from the attackers, from the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians, again, they're literally going into Russia to attack that country, as we keep getting headlines, even from Western media outlets that usually lied to us about the situation, describing situations where Russians destroyed 2 U.S.-made Patriot surface-to-air missile systems, all worth $400 million. That's your tax dollars literally being eviscerated right in front of your eyes. Why are we spending so much money? Why are we sending it down there? Why is it just being blown up to smithereens? What's the goal? What's the objective here? I think that's a question that I think a lot of people should be asking themselves, and no one is.
It's because they think that if they spend a lot of money now, they're going to secure the place, they're going to get the oil and the resources out of the Ukraine, and they're going to end up making more money later. That's the idea.
The Western countries?
Yeah, they want the oil pipelines through Ukraine. I mean, they're working with Burisma and the Bidens. They want that.
But
they want access to
that's
that.
the private companies that take those profits. It doesn't go back to the U.S. taxpayer. So once again, this is socialism. This is or fascism. If
Well,
you
it
will.
goes back to the private companies that the children of Nancy Pelosi and the Bidens are all working for.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
They'll get their campaign contributions, but the real profit, if there's victory for them in Ukraine, will be to BlackRock. It'll be to the reconstruction projects. It won't be to the U.S. taxpayer.
But the politicians, it's stability. They want economic domestic stability with like enough oil. If we run out of oil, they've already drained our resources. They need it.
That thesis is totally their framing. It's not reality at all. And we have enough oil and gas in America, if we actually were to produce domestically, to survive for 50, 75, 100 years without bringing in any imports whatsoever. It's just totally a lie.
Well, no one's ever told me that. This is just what I'm intuiting. Like
Okay.
maybe they're like,
Well,
we
they say
just
that.
want to stop the Russians. That's another thing. Is just stop the Russians. But it's
Yeah.
like not only do you stop them, you gain what they would have taken.
Well,
so there's a
I'll give you the behind the scenes as to why this is so important. If their ability to fend off Russia via proxy war fails, and also the entire sanction regime that has been waged against them, and it has been a nuclear weapon version of the sanction regime, if they can win the war and survive being kicked off of all of the Western financial rails, it is the end of the U.S. dollar's hegemonic domination all over the planet, and that's a big deal. This is the whole reason the BRICS alliance has expanded upon itself, is because they're looking at this and they're saying there's a new big boy on the block, and it is Russia, it is China, it is Brazil, it is India. It's everybody, not the West, and that's the new paradigm that we're walking into.
Right. Yeah. Well, the inflation is kind of crazy because we were just at the beach actually about an hour ago, and like the amount of fabric they use in the bathing suits is going down like drastically. And I don't know if anyone's looking into this, but like these ladies,
I know you were looking into it. You
Well, I was just trying to understand
were
the
trying to do your
financial
best
situation, but it's like-
to
I mean,
investigate
I'm not
the
really stressed
situation.
about it.
like where's all the cotton going?
Where's it going?
Yeah.
Well, it is.
To Ukraine?
It's the breadbasket of Europe is Ukraine, so that's why we don't have enough cotton for.
They sent the burlap sacks to the Ukraine.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, I'm becoming disillusioned, man. I lost my cat today. I don't know if you guys know
I
Bucko
know,
the cat.
man.
He died today,
I know.
and I felt myself getting pulled toward nihilism. Like I can feel it right
We
now.
have
sorry,
we have
man.
a super chat related to that. I wasn't going to read it, but since you
Yeah.
brought it up, someone says, "Does Ian know Mr. Bokus passed away?"
I think that's the thing about loss is like it for me at least I'm experiencing it right now, and it's like, man, I'm becoming. I can see the nihilistic path ahead of me. I know what Alex Stein went through when he lost his mom. Like this kind of and thinking the government didn't do it to my cat. The cat just died. The cat was on pharmaceuticals, and the cat died, unfortunately. But to think of if there's even like a twinge of malice, I start to really get dark.
I mean, death is something serious. It's something that should never be celebrated. Something that should be respected, and something that we should always talk about in the most understanding way that we can. But when we look at the wars in Ukraine, it's affecting a crap ton of innocent human beings that are being caught up in it. Crap ton of innocent human beings that are just trying to live their lives, who literally get pulled off of the street, thrown into a van, told to have a rifle, given 2 weeks of training, and then sent to the front lines to die for what? Why are we continuing this war? Why are so many young men losing their lives? And the video footage is absolutely horrific. There are a lot of these videos all over Reddit, all over Twitter, specifically highlighting just this new form of drone warfare where these guys are just scrambling for their lives, shooting up in the air, and it's hopeless because this little freaking drone robot just literally teases them, plays around with them, makes them run around in circles, and then rams right into them and takes their lives.
With a bomb strapped on it or something?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Well,
that's warfare. That's modern warfare right now that is absolutely freaking terrifying.
And that's modern, what do you call it? Limited war. That's modern. That's not total war. Modern total war is going to be another animal. We want to avoid that at all
Well,
costs.
in fairness, I think we are seeing a bit of modern total war when it comes to Gaza. But I get your point, and it can get way, 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 way worse because we're not using any of the really advanced weaponry that is at their disposal.
Well, Gaza's more of a population replacement
That's a kind way of putting it.
move here. It's not a full, all-out, termination of an entire society. It's to move them away, destroy their land, take away their homes. From the perspective, from what I see here now, this war again at any moment, at any time, could expand, and it could get very serious, especially with the news of Sweden recently joining NATO as their flag was just raised at NATO headquarters during a ceremony where they were approved to be a part of the European Western-backed alliance that is predominantly there for Russia, now near Russia's border, which of course complicates the situation as NATO also calls for Ukraine to join them. If that happens, that's going to be a very severe situation, as already the situation is extremely severe. There's a lot at stake here, and there's a lot of sociopathic, crazy politicians with their finger on the button, which is absolutely freaking terrifying and not a good situation to be in, as of course the first casualty of war is usually the truth. Are we getting the truth of what's happening in Ukraine? No. But just even seeing the corporate media twist and talk about the heavy losses that the Ukrainians are suffering and not cheerleading and not saying they're going to win tomorrow. They're going to change everything tomorrow. Just seeing that highlights that the situation probably is far worse than we even expected it to be, than we even know about now, as of course there is a fog of war, and the situation probably is a lot more desperate, a lot worse off for the Ukrainians than we even know about now.
Well, what frustrates me a lot is that we already know that they've lied every step of the way as to how Ukraine was doing in this war, but yet those very same people will continue to beat this drum that as soon as Ukraine falls, Poland's next, and you'll have Russian tanks in Frankfurt within a couple months. These people are liars. They are trying to lie you into just a gravy train for the military-industrial complex, not just the American one, but any military-industrial industry all over the planet. And it's just not healthy. I mean, this is a destruction of your wealth. This is stealing from the productive aspects of society and handing it to the predatory class. And I think that people need to wake up to it because we're already suffering terribly financially, and this is a product of decades and decades of the same mistake.
All right, we got a lot more news to talk about, specifically when it comes to a lot of really shocking and surprising news coming from the United Kingdom that we're going to be getting into in just a little bit on another platform where we could actually discuss these ideas freely. Also, a lot of crazy news coming from Haiti. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all on another platform. That platform, of course, being rumble.com/wearechange. This is where you could find us and have an honest, real conversation, as we are going to be taking callers from members of LukeUnfiltered.com very soon. So if you want to find us, you don't even have to go to rumble.com/wearechange. You can just go to rumble.com. Steph, go back on the browser. You go to rumble.com. You, of course, scroll down. You go into the picks category, and we are right here, second to Megan Kelly. So if you want to watch the show, go right now. Continue watching it on rumble.com. We are on the front page here where the conversation will be free. It will be unleashed. And Tabasco Tobias, man, who, I don't know what he's doing, will finally be let go of his imaginary non-existent restraints. What is he doing? I don't know what.
He went to the other room to open it. It was very polite,
Cracked
actually.
the
It
juice.
is. It actually was very polite.
Told me not to crack open a thing.
Yeah. Don't do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So again, conversation gets wild, gets interesting, gets spicy. Callers coming in soon from members of LukeUnfiltered.com. If you're a member, go to the Telegram channel. Let me know you want to call in right now for all members of LukeUnfiltered.com. Josie, before we transition off of all the other social media platforms, where can people find your work and support you?
You can find me on X at TRHL Official, or you can become a member at timcast.com and help support our work that way.
Ian Crossland in the house. Where can people check out more of your work?
Yeah, my full name, Ian Crossland, and it's really all over the internet. I think I post a lot on X right now. That's about it. I'm on X. You ever do ecstasy?
No,
I don't know what that is.
We'll do that on
But
Rumble.
what were you gonna ask me?
Nothing.
You were gonna ask where you can find me, and I was gonna say you can find me in the club, and you'd be like, "That's copyright." So I actually couldn't do that. So
No.
Toby Turner, how's it going?
Where do people find you best?
I mean, I usually sleep on the couch.
No lies detected.
YouTube /Sebastian, I don't know. Twitter, it's Toby Turner.
Toby just like showed up at my house
look in the
randomly,
window,
and he's
yeah.
like, I got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, he has a. Never mind.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped him off.
I was gonna say something about the vax.
Stop it.
All right, we're gonna
Stop it.
unleash Toby on Rumble. I feel like he'll be able to speak more freely. At least I hope so.
I don't need to speak. I'm trying to not.
Take away the microphone. Ian, hit him. Hit him for me.
At Liberty Lock Pod on X. Please do follow. Please do subscribe if you want to support my work. LibertyLockdown.locals.com is another way you can support the show. Liberty Lockdown, new episode dropping tomorrow. I finally got my mic fixed, so we should be back in business. And Liberty Lockdown is the show. You can find it on any of your podcatchers as well as the